Hi, I'm Michael Goddard, and I'm excited to learn about ArrayList with you. Let's get started. Hello students. So in this lesson we're going to be looking at a new data structure, the ArrayList. What we're going to learn is what an ArrayList is and how it is different from an array and how to use it. At the end of this assignment you will be expected to write a class that demonstrates the methods of an ArrayList of strings. And we've got some good code later on here down for you to help you out with that process. So let's talk about this. First off, what is an array list? Well, an array list is a data structure that stores values like an array. That's why it's got the word array in it, and it's a list because it looks like a list. However, unlike an array list does not have a fixed length. Its length increases and decreases as the client adds or removes items to it. If you remember, an array is always fixed whenever you say, like array, integer array, r equals new integer 10 or 50 or something like that. Array list does not start off at a specific size. It starts off at size 0 actually, and then it grows as you add items to it. Also, an array list is an object. Arrays are not really strictly objects. They're kind of something in between. And an array list can only contain objects. If you remember, arrays could contain or could reference or point to objects or primitives such as int, double, boolean, so on and so forth. An array list is a very valuable tool and it's very powerful, and we'll find that out as we kind of work through here. But just a quick comparison chart here, you can see some of those items that we already talked about. The physical size, fixed when it's created for array, 0 when it's created for an array list, and it grows. Something else, the array, you access its physical length using the .length property, but with an array list, as we will see, we're going to use the .size method. And I'm using sort of different terminology here because an array list is an object, and the way we interact with objects are with methods. The logical size, that's how much actual information has been put into the data structure. With an array, it does not keep track of that. The programmer has to do that manually, adding or decreasing whenever a value is added or taken away from the array. But with an array list, the logical size is actually the same as the physical size, at least as far as we're concerned. There are some inner workings about what's going on behind the scenes with the array list that can make that not entirely accurate, but at this point we'll do what we're working with. This is good enough. With an array, if you remember, use the brackets to read or to write a value. With array list, we're going to use methods, gets and sets, because once again it's an object. You don't need any import statements to utilize or create or declare an array, but with array list you will need to have the import java.util.star line at the top. So, speaking of that, how do we declare and instantiate an array list? Well, with a line of code that looks something like this. Array list, and then these angle bracket on either side of whatever type you want this array list to be of. In this case, we want to have an array list of strings, so I put the word string inside there. Then this right here, list, this is the name, this is the variable name right there. And we say equals new array list, angle brackets, once again with the type inside, and then parentheses because we need to call the constructor. Like I said, this is an object. So those angle brackets, those are like less than, greater than sign, are part of an aspect or feature of Java called generics, which we will get into more in future lessons. But for right now, all you really need to know is that if you want to have an array list of strings, you put string right there. If you want to have an array list of int or doubles, well, you can't just put int or double in there because it can only contain objects. So you have to wait till the next lesson to figure out how that. But if you have, I don't know, maybe tires, a tire object, you could put an array list of tires, and we will discuss that later with how to have array list of custom objects. For right now, we're just sort of getting used to array lists, and we're going to focus just with strings. Side note, Java 1.7, which by strange nomenclature also known as Java 7, you don't strictly need the type listed inside those angle brackets over here. It kind of figures it out from the left hand side, but you might see either one of those. They're both correct. So in terms of declaring instantiating. So, all right, let's get down to it. How do I actually interact with an array list? How do I add, remove, change, modify the values? Here is a table with some of the most common commands. So you can see the constructor. There is an isEmpty method, which returns true or false based on whether or not the array list is empty or not. As mentioned earlier, there's the size method. There is a get method, which returns the element at whatever index you type in. There's the set method, which will replace whatever is at this spot with whatever you put here. We'll see examples in a moment, but just sort of giving you an introduction here to the methods. There's an add method, which appends, puts an extra element there on the end. There's an add with an index, which the first number is the index, the second value there is whatever you want to insert, and this functions or acts like an insert. There's a remove, which is going to remove whatever you want there, and there's some interesting phenomena that occur around that. We'll also talk about that in a future lesson. And then the index of, which kind of does a little bit of a search. Lets us know if you have if the array list contains that value. Also dig into that a little bit later. So just a couple of quick notes. The get works like the brackets in the array. The set will replace whatever. We kind of mentioned that. There's the two add methods, one with a single parameter and one with two parameters. The single parameter one puts whatever you are wanting to add to the end of the list. The add with the two parameters works like an insert, and everything else gets pushed down. We'll see that as well. And then the remove. So enough about that. Let's go ahead and actually look at a program that adds, that creates an array list, adds some items, does some inserting, printing, changing, and retrieving. And so here we go. So this is the ArrayList Demo program. You can see up here at the top we've got the import statement. Then inside our main method we instantiate our array list. We're calling it list. Again, you could call it whatever you want. You can call it list of states, or you can call it just states, or you can call it whatever you wanted. That's just an appropriate variable name for what we have right here. And to add individual items to our list, we just use the add method. List.add Texas, list.add Colorado, Wyoming, Montana. And so if we were to visualize what's going on, it's like we have a list over here, and it's putting Texas there at row 0, Colorado at row 1, Wyoming at row 2, Montana at row 3. And then this line right here, we're going to insert using the two parameter add method. So we're adding at position 2 Oklahoma. So if we think through this, okay, so this is position 0, position 1, or index 0, index 1, or row 0, row 1. Either way, whatever you want to call it, this right here is row 2 or index 2. So we're going to insert Oklahoma at this spot. And what that is going to cause is Wyoming is going to get pushed down, Montana is going to get pushed down. So our list now would look like Texas, Colorado, Oklahoma, Wyoming, Montana. If we wanted to print out the size, then we just say, this little print line statement with the label, size of the list, list.size, and that should return how many items there are, which 1, 2, 3, 4 plus that one, 5. Okay. Then we're going to change an item in the list using the set method. So we're going to change whatever is at position 3 to Kansas. So this was at 0, this was at 1, Oklahoma was at 2, then Wyoming gets pushed to 3, and Montana is 4. So whatever was at 3, which is Wyoming, is now going to be Kansas. So if we print everything out, it should look like Texas, Colorado, Oklahoma, Kansas, Montana. And to print that out, well, that's what we have here. System.println list.get0. That's going to get whatever is at position 0. List.get1, whatever is at position 1. And going all the way through there. Let's go ahead and copy this, paste it, run it. I've actually done that over here. And let's run the program. Size of list 5, that's what we expected. Texas, Colorado, Oklahoma, Kansas, Montana. Great. If we want to, we can add more items here. Just say list.add New York. And then I would need to go down here and add another print line statement. There we go. If I got rid of this where I changed it, or I changed that one to Kansas, then what we see where Kansas is, we should see that Wyoming. So I'll comment out the Kansas line, run it again, and we can see after Oklahoma comes Wyoming, then Montana, and New York. So lots of different things, but this is essentially how you manipulate an array list. Your assignment is described here to make a new program. Kind of use this one as a model. Only I want you to have countries and kind of have a little bit of a different sequence of events here, and having them print out a couple different times. In the assignment, you'll see one thing I want you to do is to print these out after you do it one time regularly, but with a for loop. So you can imagine, could I use a for loop here? Absolutely, you could. Just look at those. That's changing every time, so it's just a matter of replacing that with an index and counting. So let you kind of work through that. Great. Well, there you go with the ArrayList. This is just the tip of the iceberg, but this is enough to kind of get you started. Got a great program here showing you how to get started with ArrayLists. Talked about some of the methods that are used, the big ones, the important ones, and compared and contrast ArrayLists versus arrays, and kind of talked about it in general. ArrayLists are amazing. They're our first introduction to generics, and it's only going to get better from here. So stick around. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your program.